Suella Braverman has warned she's not afraid to ban pro-Palestinian demonstrations on Armistice Day. The Home Secretary had previously called them hate marches.
Well, 4 police officers were injured during Saturday's demonstration after some protesters threw fireworks at them. The Met Police said 29 people were arrested and 6 have been charged with public order offences. Well, TalkTV's chief political commentator, Peter Cardwell, joins us now. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Nicola.
Police are in a difficult situation with these marches. Ultimately, 29 arrests out of the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people who were there. Is it fair for Suella Braverman to call them hate marches?
I don't think she knows what's going through the minds of every single person who's on those marches. We're talking, as you say, about tens of thousands of people. What is nonetheless the case is that there may be lots of people marching peacefully, but there are also a significant minority of people who are not. Previously, the previous march last Saturday had something like 10,000. Sorry, I said something like 1,000 officers. 1,300 last 2 days ago. So the situation is very, very difficult. I think there are lots of very public things like the annoying and being a nuisance and intimidating people who were selling poppies, for example. There are some Palestinian protesters there who appear to have been on the march as well. The harassment of a young child coming out of McDonald's, because McDonald's in Israel franchises, not the wider company, giving free meals to Israeli Defence Force soldiers. So there are a number of things that I think are really, really worrying a lot of people. In terms of banning it, well, it's a public order event. It's up to the Metropolitan Police Chief to do that. But also you've got to question the wisdom. Is it the right thing to ban this? Wouldn't that cause more problems? Or actually, are we in a situation where we should be perhaps persuading people and saying, you've had 4 marches now, do you really need to have one on Remembrance Weekend? Is that really, really necessary to make your point, which we all know what you think?
But armistice literally means ceasefire. And a lot of people will argue that that is what the majority of people who are attending these protests, that are supposed to happen every Saturday until a ceasefire is achieved or until peace is achieved in the conflict. Isn't that the right point to have a protest? They've said that they're not going to go past the cenotaph.
I hope they don't go anywhere near it. In terms of a ceasefire in Israel, I'm not sure that would necessarily end the war, and I'm not sure that Hamas would actually adhere to that. So I think it's a complicated argument, but I think a lot of people see the sanctity of both Remembrance Day on Saturday, the 11th of the 11th, and Remembrance Sunday as something that is absolutely sacred within British society. And I think a lot of people are very, very worried about that. Politically, it's a very difficult issue. Rishi Sunak has written to the Metropolitan Police Chief. We'll see what happens, but I mean, I think it's almost certain that some sort of march will go ahead. Now, the Palestinian one of the campaigns which has been organising the march put out a statement on Friday where they said, look, there's no chance that we'll be anywhere near the cenotaph, we'll be respectful, but you cannot guarantee the behaviour of tens of thousands of people. No one can.
We keep hearing about this. It's a minority of people that are causing a problem. There's been criticism, Peter, of the police for not piling in and addressing this. The police have their own answer to that they try to do this afterwards if they possibly can. Is there anywhere else that you can imagine that racism, and this is absolute, demonstrable, category A racism, on our streets, on placards, through loud hailers, people standing on statues, waving flags, masked up, holding terrorist paraphernalia in their hands? Is there any other area of life where that would get such a free pass? It may be a minority compared to the tens of thousands, but it's still, you use the word correctly, it's a significant minority that are doing this.
And a very vocal and very active minority. And I think that it doesn't really matter that it's a minority, because what a lot of people's impression of that march is not the peaceful aspect of it, but the bit where people are supporting, there are some people there supporting Hamas. There are people supporting the murder of babies. They're horrific.
It's being shown on our screens.
Yeah,
everyone's seeing this on our nightly news.
It's all there. And there was someone who actually held up a sign saying Hamas are terrorists, and that sign was sort of punched down above his head. There are, there are police officers under attack. There are people who don't feel safe going into not just London, but other cities right across the UK. This is a major thing that a lot of people are very, very worried about in terms of societal breakdown. Can the police cope? Are they being given the resources that they need? And also, it's a massive policing operation around the cenotaph on the Sunday. Now, the march is on the Saturday, so that's slightly different. But with the Festival of Remembrance at the Royal Albert Hall, very, very important to many people as well. It's the two together. It's the scary bit of these protests, some bits of which have got out of control. There's no doubt about that. There are injured police officers who are dealing with their injuries at the moment, 4 of them over the weekend. And it's putting that together with Remembrance Day, which is so sacred to so many people. Yeah. And this is really, really difficult politically. But I think people are crying out for political leadership on this. We haven't heard from Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London. We haven't heard from the Prime Minister. We haven't heard from Keir Starmer on this. What do they think? I think over the next 24 hours or so, we're looking ahead to the King's speech, and that's a very important political event. But I think we're going to have to hear about what they want to happen on Saturday and what they're going to do to make it either peaceful or not happen.
And just quickly going back to Suella Braverman, her comments over the weekend about the government trying to ban people from sleeping in tents. What more can you tell us?
Yes, I mean, this is, I spoke to a charity actually over the weekend, Crisis, which said this was a silly remark. I don't think anybody wants anybody to live in a tent and to stay in a tent, but it is the government and council's statutory duty to put people in bricks and mortar and to make sure that people have shelter, proper shelter and proper homes. In terms of tents, charities handing out tents is a bit of a problem in that you are facilitating people's life on the street, but at the same time, it's the local authorities, it's the government that should be putting them in bricks and mortar. So I think Suella Braverman is trying to solve a bit of the problem without looking at the whole problem. I used to advise the Housing Secretary on homelessness a few years ago, and giving out tents, I don't want that ever to happen. I don't want anyone to spend a single night in the open air. But at the same time, that is a temporary and sort of not particularly good solution. No. But at the same time, Suella Braverman blaming the charities really neglects the fact that it's the government's responsibility.
Absolutely. It's certainly not a lifestyle choice, as she suggested over the weekend either. We will be talking about that in further detail later on in the show, but in the meantime, thank you so much, Peter Cardwell.